That is what Chaos required.
Okay.
Philip and I disagree, but that's what she wants. So. I'm just thinking, Kat, what if I made them just, you can't fog it. Where's Franny?
About 10 minutes. And yeah,
Piper.
Hello.
I love what you did.
Michelle is streaming.
Thank you.
What's happening for? I know. I discovered I have a hard time making gross stuff. Like I keep trying to make something gross. It's not
I would think a lot of people would be interested in coming to this.
Check people list.
Have you tried teleporting to it?
Yeah, I forgot how to teleport on that.
Are you using the Viral Alpha?
Five.
Okay, use the track Despres on the trackpad.
Oh, never done. Hey.
So check the people list for anything.
Yeah, now you have to just rotate yourself.
Voila. Thank you. I hadn't been in the
The board is not here right now.
No worries. Good job, everybody.
Philip, say something, please.
Hey, test 1, 2, 3. This is Philip. Hello, hello.
Hello?
You hear me?
Yes, I hear you. Great.
Good deal.
Okay. Probably another, probably 10 minutes at the most to set up.
Okay, great. I'll hang out
I'll
here
do
with
a
the gang.
quick introduction in the room, and then we go in. So a total of like between 10 and 15. Awesome.
Okay, great.
Thank
Well,
you, Philip.
Yeah, you got it.
We had
There's
a really
chaos.
good
Hey, you guys.
setup.
What's up?
Let's not jinx it.
She's in her cat outfit. Nice, Menthol. Good cloak. How's it going?
should have seen his magic last night or shows.
What's happening, you guys? What's the latest?
Cast a spell. He cast a spell last night.
just chilling out.
I always ask. Always the question, is the latest build working? What's wrong with the
It worked
latest
good for
build?
me.
Well, you were getting yourself scanned, weren't you?
Yes, I did.
Excellent.
Tube in Soho. The new one in Soho.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It was really cool. I ended up buying Christmas presents for my
dance. You're
and
on
those
the-
medieval statues and stuff.
That's, I think, their business model.
I think it is.
These guys are... I know, I love that they're so ambitious in doing that. It's a very smart thing to do, I think, to basically build the...
Run around
Try to
inside the stage.
rent the space ahead of the equipment actually working, but it's kind of like people building electric airplanes right now. If I had lots of money to spend, I'd just build an electric airplane, basically, with the... And I'd be waiting for the new batteries, you know.
I
Basically.
think the batteries would be bigger than the plane at this point to get that kind of lift.
Yeah, at this
you know?
point, well, you can build. I mean, you can basically, as far as I understand, that's what like 2 or 3 companies are doing. They're basically just building electric planes that'll have a range of like 5 miles right now. But I think they're anticipating that somebody's going to drive the battery density, battery weight down a lot.
Right.
And as soon as that happens, we're going to instantly have, you know, legit electric planes. And so, I mean, if you were really ambitious, which, you know, if I had the money, I would be to do something. Of course, that, you know, that'd be literally tons of money.
Right.
You could
Is it
you
just
could
me or
just
is
build ahead of that.
Draxtor black?
No, he's okay to me.
Okay, good. Then it's just me.
He's got a bad texture for you.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, that sucks. Yes. Challenges.
You didn't see Menethal's
of the
spell
platform.
last night. It was great.
What'd you do, Manethal? You cast
I
spells.
cast a spell to change clothing.
Oh
cool.
man.
And none
Yeah,
of
don't
us
do
crashed.
that to
None
me
of
on
us-
stage, or I'll put your reputation forever in the blockchain or something like that. I guess we'll talk about that up here. You'll have a bad mark from me. Such an interesting idea of people paying to make notes about other people's reputation. It's bizarre thought.
What was that project I saw, I don't know, maybe a year ago called People, P-E-E-P-L, where these 2 women started a startup that was basically like a personality rating system, and so you could like rate other people and couldn't opt out of it. I was like, man, that's a good idea.
That's a crazy, creepy idea. Yeah, totally Mean Girls.
Looks 0%.
You know what? You know what I've been thinking about a lot lately, you guys, is watching these ICOs with shock and awe. You know, I'll tell you the funny math problem to think through. This should make you laugh. I mean,
Ich
all
hab
these
Dia-Show.
ICOs that are going on are just, a lot of them are just, you know, outright scams because they're selling you a fraction of
Right.
something.
My
but the
problem
math
is
doesn't
that
work
I
out for what happens with the something next.
press
And I've actually been, I don't know if you guys saw the one that Ocho
frame rate issues.
for one. That's actually really interesting, but I'm still trying to do the math.
Drax, wie
and
schaut's denn
figure
bei
out
dir
whether
aus, framerate-mäßig?
anybody's going to make any money on it,
Fuck.
or whether it makes any
Ich hab,
sense. But like
ich
if
hab
I
Dia-Show.
was thinking we could come up with something like that was, if it was a useful way to pre-distribute some share of resources, it would make sense. But the problem is that mathematically you get this problem where the token value goes up, but people become hoarders of it. They won't give it away, and so then it won't work for whatever you're trying to use it
Here's
for.
the tablet. Awesome.
Yeah, money's gonna flow.
Tablet
It's exactly what happened with Bitcoin. I mean, are you going to sell any Bitcoin? I got a bunch of Bitcoin. Let me tell you what I'm not doing with it. Buying groceries, right? I'm holding it. I mean, I bought it at 4,000. It's at 5,800, right? I mean, I don't. So that's the problem. That's the really interesting problem. You know, what we're trying to do with our blockchain that, you know, you guys know what we're setting up right now is to figure out a monetary policy that's algorithmic, ideally, that we can't change or that's at least official, you know, the way it works. But it has to be an increasing supply strategy. It can't just, we can't just sell all the tokens to all of us at day one. I mean, I guess we'll all be billionaires in the future, but only if people begin using the tokens for something. So, I mean, it's really interesting. That's my side discussion of the morning. Yeah. Morning for me. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right, the spectator cam. I'm trying to get the camera on. And Chaos is still setting up. Just a few more minutes. But the camera is not resing.
What you guys
I
think
have it
about
on the tablet.
Does Draxtor have permission to rest?
No, hang on. Let me see.
Checking the
I need
box.
to fix
The
that.
box is checking.
Okay, hold on, Drax.
He was able to put the camera on.
Now the box is on. Let me just restart.
I know you have
Könnt ihr das Audio schon aufnehmen? Hallo, 1, 2, 3. Philip?
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Can you hear me? You've got rest permissions, Drax. You should be able to make this back to the camera.
I hear you well. I'm going to start the spectator cam?
Hi, Jasmine. I can't wait for you to see my fireworks.
Just make sure you're logged in, Drax.
Yeah, it looks great. I mean, well,
Yeah,
that's
noch
I
von
saw
denen.
the statue Dadi.
Ja, super.
you're a blue person, Jasmine.
Yes, I am. That
Cool.
takes me back.
Where's that music coming from?
Oh,
Is that
I'll
from
shut it off.
Inworld?
1 second.
The idea of banjo music that couldn't stop is a fun one. Not
Seventh
entirely,
ring of hell.
not settling. Yeah, not comfortable with that.
I always paddle faster.
Yeah, exactly. Try to get under the bridge. I watched that movie for the first time like a few years ago. I'd never actually seen it. One of those films that you just hear about and you know all the key lines from, then you never actually watch it. Like Caddyshack or something, right? I love Caddyshack. I think that's great films. Did you guys all see Blade Runner yet?
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. I thought.
It's good. I
really
mean,
liked
you gotta love the original. I mean, not as
Yeah.
good as the original, but it was
No.
beautiful. It was so beautiful, you know.
It really
It's
was.
like,
Can't
in the
get the
original,
tablet
the
going.
accomplishment of how beautiful it was a lot more significant, I think, than
Yeah,
beauty.
yeah, it was easier to copy now. But in the original, it also just had a tremendous plot.
I
And this one,
Yes.
you know, it was okay, but I mean, it was pretty moody. It felt much more like an art film.
Yeah, it's like they took one little string out of the first one and made a whole
Yeah,
movie out of it. You
yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Mostly, I didn't go for the villain. I thought he was really flat.
Yeah, I thought so too.
You know, like
Oh, you didn't go for
Here
who?
we go.
the bad guy.
Oh, the bad guy. That's everybody thought that. He was so lame. He was just
Yeah.
kind of boring.
His assistant though, she was pretty rough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. She was tough to the end.
Thanks for
Okay.
that.
What could the tablet issue be? Okay, let me go somewhere else.
Two trees is about the same as
Yeah, but I can't res the spectator cam in desktop mode, right? The key is what I want is the spectator cam. Let me try one more thing here.
Start the spectator cam.
Is there a hotkey for restarting the
Das ist immer
system
so.
scripts, you guys? No, not at present, right?
Alles, was richtig cool ist, funktioniert nicht.
Oh, Control R. In fact, sorry, I apologise.
What is it?
It's not. It's Control R, but that's difficult to get to when you're on HMD.
Mm-hmm.
Teleporting spell and then coming back Alright, then we'll do without the spectator cam. That's fine. Okay, we're gonna do an intro in the room, Philip, and then I'll bring you in.
Okay.
Du kannst anfangen, ja. They're starting in the room.
Does that mean you can begin?
Ja, genau.
Dankeschön.
Working on our German here.
Conquest.
Chris, I wonder if it would help if we went to just bare bones avatars.
Why? How so?
Just to take resources.
22.
Resources.
Oh, it's probably all loaded already, so.
Oh.
No, it's fine, you guys. Don't worry about that.
My tablet is very sluggish. Is yours, Chris? I was trying to raise the volume for Philip.
No, mine's pretty smooth.
Yeah, we've got
Danke für die Anmoderation. Also ich bin der Bernhard, Draxtor. Hier ist Tina, Xaos. Tina, bist du schon auf der Bühne?
Es läuft.
Okay, also ich gehe jetzt auch mal rein. Ich sehe dann euch nicht. Ihr seht mich hier rumhampeln in meinem Head-Mounted Display. Und wenn wir Philipp reinbringen, dann switchen wir auf Englisch um. Was wir vorher getestet haben, was jetzt nicht funktioniert, ist, es gibt eine Handkamera in High Fidelity und da wollte ich rumfilmen und da kann ich auch die Perspektive ändern. Das geht jetzt im Moment nicht, das heißt, ihr seht meinen super coolen Avatar, seht ihr jetzt nicht. Ich bin jetzt quasi die Kamera. Du kannst auf Tinas Bildschirm siehst du ein bisschen was. Ganz kurz, High Fidelity ist die neue virtuelle Welt von dem Gründer von Second Life, Philip Rosedale, mit dem wir gleich sprechen. Das ist die nächste Generation von virtuellen Welten, die jetzt eben mit diesen Hand-Controller, mit den HMDs, mit diesen Head-Mounted Displays funktionieren. Also wie ihr seht, wird meine Position im Raum getrackt mit diesen Trackern. Bei der Tina, bei der Xaos drüben ist es ein anderes System. Das ist im Moment noch etwas teurer. Der Titel unseres Vortrags ist Freiheit der Kommunikation. Also ich habe jetzt etwas über 10 Jahre in Second Life Reportagen gemacht als virtueller Journalist und ich bin davon überzeugt, dass virtuelle Welten mit dem Avatar die Möglichkeit geben, dass wir authentischer kommunizieren können. Das ist also die These. Jetzt frage ich mal Xaos, bevor wir Philipp reinbringen. Wir haben jetzt hier auch mal ein Publikum. So for the audience, can you guys give us a hand? Can you wave to us?
Thank
so
you
these guys
that
are
you're
all
all
over
there.
the world.
I'm stoked. We're stoked. We're super excited.
We're switching to English. So Xaos, where are you?
I am in a wonderful theater, Zaru, which lives on a high fidelity server. And I'm waiting for Philip Rosedale and getting used to hearing my sound 2 times.
So the weird thing is that I don't see Xaos.
I don't see Chaos either. We don't see you, Chaos.
You don't see me?
No, where are you? Are you standing here?
I don't see you.
Okay, let Xaos work on it. Philip, please join us on
let's
stage
jump up.
here,
You need to
and
be Chaos.
I'll bring you in.
Hey, everybody. Hi, Drax.
Philip, thanks for coming.
I'd love to see you.
Can we get a big applause in the physical world? Könnt ihr mal klatschen?
I love it. The clap script is working. Thank you.
Munich
Thank you.
represent.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna quickly reload content and
So Xaos is reloading. Philip, let me start.
Yeah,
by asking
Chaos, you want to disconnect and reconnect, Chaos, if you can hear us. Disconnect and reconnect. Yes, ask me.
Okay, so I'm
Philip, I
gonna
wanna ask you,
restart.
Everybody's talking about virtual reality. This is a social VR world.
Yep.
What is the difference? What is social VR vis-a-vis virtual reality? That is the buzzword du jour.
Well, I mean, at a high level, I would define social VR as just the experience of having a lot of people or just 2 people together in a VR space. I mean, putting on the headset is one thing when you're playing a video game, but obviously, like we're doing right now, and we're doing with all our friends here, the experience of being in the space together is a very unique one, and that's what people have come to call social VR. I think it's a little bit limiting because it sounds like social media for VR, and I think it makes us feel like we're supposed to be sending out tweets or something, Hello, Chaos.
Xaos just, she photobombed you.
She did. So there we go. And she's loading, so she'll land on the stage here, another magical aspect of our system.
She's levitating.
You're a ghost
because
until
she's so
the world
relaxed.
is there. Yeah. I guess.
Philip, let me ask you, virtual reality just with Second Life, and I just visited you 2 weeks ago in San Francisco, and we talked about the sense of place where virtual worlds are so fundamentally different from other social networks. What's the significance of the place? Because some people argue, well, why do I need a virtual world? You know, I can connect with people on Facebook, I can connect with people on Twitter. What is the added awesomeness, I'm biased of course, of a virtual world with that sense of space?
Well, there's obviously a lot of, I mean, there's so much to say about that, right? One is simply that we, in the real world, in any world, act to build the world around us, to make it make sense. You know, we use the world as a tool to communicate. So we build houses and clothing and, you know, stadiums and freeways and all these things as a means of connecting ourselves to each other. And so I think the virtual world is exactly the same thing. But practically speaking, we need virtual worlds where we can change things because, say, if I want to teach everybody physics, well, I need a whiteboard and, you know, I need to change this stage and get rid of these trees and, you know, do whatever I need to do my work. So the identity, the avatar, what you look like, and the room, what's in this room, you know, where the chairs are, all of that is part of creating an experience that can have utility for people in VR.
Your avatar looks fairly photorealistic. We know that you had yourself scanned, so that possibility exists. Once Xaos is in, she did the same thing, and she was going to switch her avatar. Her choice with this avatar, with her main avatar, is... but let me ask you, Xaos, can you hear us?
Yes.
Xaos, why did you choose this fairly cartoonish-looking avatar? We look at Philip here. Philip looks really very similar to how he does in the physical world. Why did you choose this avatar when you first came into High Fidelity? What's the significance of your avatar?
Well, at first it was just a practical issue. I read about High Fidelity in the Wired magazine, and I decided to do my own Fuse avatar, and which is a software where you can create your own avatars. And there I found this comic-looking template, and I thought it's like a nice thing to portray my real self or my inner character. And so I decided on this comic-wise avatar because it gives me more freedom of self-expression. It's like
and Philip, I'm going to ask you, because your experience with Second Life, it's so incredibly rich. The avatars are already in High Fidelity, and we didn't mention Sandstar, which is Linden Labs' new virtual world, where I'm a little bit biased because I work with them on their promotional videos. It's also the goal of all of your company and of Linden Lab is to present that freedom of expression. If we look into the audience right here, Dr. Fran, can you wave to us? Here's Dr. Fran, and who else do we have? We have a person with bunny ears and butterfly wings. Who's that?
Hi, that's Caitlin. Hi.
Caitlin, oh my God. Hi, Caitlin. Kannst du was auf Deutsch sagen?
Ja, hallo, grüß dich und grüß euch. That's richtig.
So Caitlin is a developer over at High Fidelity, and she speaks German very well. So here you look very different than you do in the physical world. Philip, you chose to... Oh, here's a little teddy bear. Philip, you chose to be photorealistic, which wasn't possible before scanning and photogrammetry.
Right.
What made you choose this avatar, and do you believe that it's maybe a little bit reductive now, or that the tendency will be this photorealism to the detriment of that rich expression that we see in Second Life?
I don't think so. I mean, I think people... I mean, by the way, this avatar is actually a little bit of a combination of a photorealistic capture and then a bit of editing done on top of it. So I am a little bit different than the full scans that we've done of me, and we also have ones. I don't see anybody... Well, perhaps I think... that might be Michelle there in the background. And in fact, Piper is wearing an avatar there in the audience that was derived from a very, very high-resolution scan we did of an actor in Los Angeles. And so there's a wide variety of different scans.
You want to stand up? Show
But,
yourself.
oh, and then there's Jasmine back there. Hi, Jasmine. Jasmine looks a lot like herself, although Jasmine didn't scan that avatar. She modeled it, I think. Right, Jasmine?
That's right.
So, Drax, I would say that consider the case of wanting to have a public figure give a talk in the virtual world, which often I'm doing, and I want to be recognized as Philip Rosedale, who I am. That's an example of a case where my choice of avatar might logically be the photo-scanned version of me, but I think that if I was, going to a party or something, I'm not sure. I think it's very possible in VR that I'd choose a representation of myself that was different. So I think that we have to make VR work for everyone, we have to provide this wide range of capability. And I don't think that the simple fact that some people are going to show up having been scanned in, scanner booths means that everybody's going to have to do that. I doubt that.
So you're not pushing this down in a dictatorial fashion that now you require everybody to be scanned in order to have fun in the virtual world?
Yeah, we're certainly not. And in fact, it's the minority of avatars yet that can be done that way, because you have to go into one of these very cool, but not huge yet, scanning stations to do it. And scanning your whole body is still something that's relatively expensive. So we're not all going to do it quite yet. It's a few $100s typically, and it's quite a process.
Let me ask real quick in the physical room. Könnt ihr alle gut hören hier? Ja, super.
For everybody in the physical as well as in the VR room, I have a bit of difficulties with the audio lag. I hear my own voice a bit later in real life, so that's the reason that I'm talking very slowly. And I can't see you, Philip, but I know how you look like. You look terrific.
Your connection is dropping, Chaos. That's why it's happening. You're on a slow connection, and you're kind of coming in and out for us. So anyway, just keep going.
Right, and we actually have to keep that in mind maybe for the audience here in the physical room. What is happening right now, we're basically having this conversation with people from all over the world. You're in San Francisco, we're here in Munich. I don't know where all these other people. I know that Dr. Fran is in New York. So all this stuff is being streamed down to here. So the bandwidth. Sorry, Xaos, you were saying?
Finland. She was calling out London and Finland.
LA.
Finland? Where's Menethol?
That's Menethol.
Menethol's up there in the back.
I don't see him. Come closer to the stage. Menethol, come here. You rescued us earlier in the sound check. This is Menethol. A round of applause for Menethol in world and in the physical room. Menethol has rescued us earlier in the sound in the tech check because we had issues with the tablet. It's now not functioning, but that has different reasons. Thank you, Menethol. And I just wanted to say, people here in Munich cannot see my avatar. My avatar also looks different from my physical self. He has 20 pounds less, so he has a really good, so you can see here, he has flip-flops. But for me, this avatar is myself, and the point that Philip just made is obviously a good one. It's his choice as the representative of this company that he can choose this avatar. For me, as sort of a media personality, I choose to be coherent within my physical appearance in the virtual world, in all worlds. So in Sansar, for example, Linden Labs product, I also have the...
Right? Yeah.
Say that, sorry?
Oh, I said you look about like you do here, right?
Yeah.
So has my dupe avatar loaded yet?
So Xaos is loading her dupe avatar, so that might take a little bit. Philip, let me ask you what the people in the room also may not know. There's a virtual economy. Second Life is actually still, after 14 years, very successful in helping people become entrepreneurs. And I think that also ties in with the freedom to communicate through products and services. in high fidelity, you have a plan to secure intellectual property, because that's been an issue not only in virtual worlds but also in the internet as a whole. Everything that you see here is user-made.
Mm-hmm. You're back, Drax. Everything you see here is user-made, you said.
Here we go.
You're crashing.
Am I still here? Now we have bandwidth issues. See everybody, my audience.
Can anyone see Chaos's avatar? I can't.
Is I can see myself. Can anybody else?
But we can hear you, Philip. So.
Not yet. We're loading. I think we have a range of bad connections here that we're exploring.
But since we can hear you, could you talk about how important it is to secure people's intellectual property if they want to create objects and they want to sell them? How are you going about that in high fidelity?
Yeah. In the real world, things are physical, and so making copies of things is quite difficult in many cases, right? But some things, like movies or sound, are already examples of things that are so easy to make copies of. You need to, in many cases, have some public debate over whether you should just copy everything, right? Digital information can always be copied. So music and videos, for example, can just be copied. But we still, as consumers, respect the idea that some people need to make all that material for us, performers, musicians, artists. And so we're willing, in many cases, to pay for something that we could as easily make a copy of. In the virtual world, everything is copyable. My avatar, that skateboard, of course, media, whole rooms like this. All these things can easily be copied. And so we need to have the virtual world work, some kind of shared agreement and functionality around intellectual property, because otherwise nobody would build anything. We'd have, a virtual world full of nothing, because nobody would want to engage, for example, in the process of building headphones like the ones you're wearing to sell to other people. So we need IP rules, and that's something that, having watched the success of Second Life, we think about a ton here. And it's kind of the part of the high fidelity project that we're in the middle of right now, is getting all that set up.
Let's throw this out real quick, because you mentioned Second Life. I always take the opportunity to remind people that Second Life still has sort of an annual user-to-user transaction volume of about $600 million in microtransactions between users who make things and sell those things to other people. Philip, the changing gear, we're getting some avatars back here, and we're working on the connection, but we can hear your voice.
Yeah, that'll be fine. Yeah, we hear you, Chaos, but we don't see you. Yeah. If you really want to try bringing that avatar in, Chaos, you could relog.
Am I back?
Oh, what the fuck is that?
You're back for some of us.
Philip, let me ask you what I should have asked earlier.
I just integrated VR chat and/or. Okay,
somebody's talking. Who was that?
We've got a new audience member. Welcome, and sit down and enjoy we're having a conversation.
How do I sit down?
Well, you can click on one of the chairs over there with your laser. And say sit.
Somebody's trying to sit down.
Oh, or you can pick the chair up. I didn't know we could do that with these chairs.
Give that chair back, come on.
That's going to create a party.
That's theft. That's intellectual property theft. Okay, he's gone. Philip, let me ask you, because this comes up all the time, and when I was with you in San Francisco, we were working on a film about how people with disabilities use virtual worlds and how they communicate.
Right.
And the thesis is also here that the communication can be more authentic. And as you know, in the press or the public perception, sometimes people would say, well, how is that possible? Because people don't know who anybody is. People have weird avatars. They look weird. They act weird. I don't know who that is. How can that be more authentic than in the physical world? Could you make that pitch why that is? Why in virtual worlds we could possibly, if we choose to communicate more authentically than in the physical world?
Sure. I mean, the big thing we've seen with that we saw with Second Life, and that's true as well with High Fidelity, is that it's easier to choose your appearance and to make small changes to it, both to yourself and to the room around you, you know, than it is in the real world. And if you think about it, what that means in a kind of an economic sense is that everyone is going to invest in more changes to themselves than what we do in the real world. And so the subtle thing about that is that it tends to make us more detailed, kind of, whether we like it or not sometimes, in our description of ourselves. And I think that's a concept that is not obvious yet to people, and one that I hope is, you know, written about and explained more in the years to come. But it just tends to be the case. If you look at our audience of many friends who I know here, you'll see that they look more different from each other and more detailed in their depiction of themselves than they would if they were sitting here in their physical bodies. And the reason is simply that they can make these subtle changes to their appearance and identity. And another thing, of course, you guys all know, is that we tend in virtual worlds to create a rich identity, but not to change it quite so much as people might think, because that identity becomes very much a part of our internal self when we're in the world. And so, you know, as one who, you know, frequents these worlds, that feeling is a very intense feeling. Your avatar in the virtual world is very much you. But in many cases, as you said, a more detailed description of you.
We have to imagine these wonderful avatars that we saw earlier, because we're still struggling a little bit with bandwidth here at the theater, and that was a risk that we were worth taking. Say that again, Carl?
Speaking of that risk, you know, we're watching you drop out there. So it sounds like you guys have terrible bandwidth from the actual show. We're all okay, right?
Yeah, it's pretty smooth here.
It's funny. This is the high-speed audience back here, and then we got Drax and Chaos trying to make it work.
All good here.
Your sound and visual is good here.
Perfect. Yeah. I'm in obviously San Francisco, so Zaru is in San Jose or something like that. But yeah, we got to fix those avatar motions as well.
How far is San Francisco and San Jose?
How what?
How far are those two?
Oh, they're about, let's see, what is it, about 40 miles apart, 30 miles apart? Sounds right. Although it's quite a long drive on some days. It's a bit like driving from, you know, New York to Long Island or something. I mean, it can be a slow drive. It can be a very slow drive some days. Hey, Drax.
Oh.
Look, we're back. We just crashed.
Oh, you did?
Ah, cool.
Welcome back. It seems like a sensor issue that he's having.
Okay, well, Philip, we crashed. We're back. Can you hear us?
Cool. I can hear you just fine. Yep. We're good.
Okay. Chaos, lass mich kurz wieder reingehen hier. Was Chaos jetzt gerade erklärt hat, Philip, I'm going to say this in German real quick.
Sure.
Das ist wichtig zu verstehen, was Tina gerade gesagt hat. Das ist ein Open Source, und ich werde Philipp dazu auch noch befragen. Also das Konzept von High Fidelity ist auch so, dass jeder die Welt simuliert auf seiner eigenen Maschine. Ich werde ihn mal gleich dazu fragen, weil das bezieht sich auch auf Ready Player One, auf das bekannte Buch. So Philip, my next question would be: you have chosen with High Fidelity to create a open source platform where your stated goal is that people simulate the worlds on their own machines and possibly rent the computing power out to other people who may not have the computing power. In the case of this stage right now, this is simulated by you guys, or it's from an Amazon server, as well as my Draxtor world in High Fidelity. Now, Sansar, which we haven't mentioned, which I mentioned once earlier, which is Linden Labs' next generation virtual world, they have chosen to go a different route where they host the service. And they basically, what they are selling for a subscription fee is, we take care of all this server installing. You don't have to worry. You log in, you build your world, and we connect it to the Atlas, and you're connected. So could you tell us why you decided to go the route of open source, and what is the end game? Is it to become like in Ready Player One? Who are the bad guys? The ISI? Anybody read Ready Player One in the room?
I bet we all have. I've read it. I've read it twice. There was a statement made a few days ago by Mark Zuckerberg at the Oculus conference, which many of you guys, of course, followed, and some of us, I think, were actually there. Jasmine was there. The statement Mark Zuckerberg made was, I want to get, and he said, and it's a statement I've made a number of times over the years, I want to get 1 billion people in VR. Now, there's 1 million people in VR today. That's Second Life, and that's the biggest world. But it's 1 million people. So how do you get to 1 billion? And I tweeted about this the other day where I said, look, I want to get 1 billion people in world as well. But the thing to realize is that means, to have an experience like we're having here, that means we actually need about 50 million servers. 50 million servers. Now, if we're going to get that from here to there in, say, the next 5 years, the number of servers that people are going to have to be putting online to create these virtual worlds, places like this, mirroring the real world in some cases, is just an enormous number of servers. And so one simple practical reason is that even if we don't worry about Big Brother or something like that, we still have to figure out a way for all of us to work together very quickly to get all those servers up. And the way the internet works, which is the way high fidelity works, is that you just got one of these servers, you installed it yourself, or you put it in the cloud or whatever, and you kind of got your own site up and running. And we believe that that is what we need to do as well. So high fidelity is designed to let everybody run the machines. And then, as you said, we're also doing work to make it easy to move machines around into the cloud, help each other out with processing and all these other things. But that is all to facilitate getting 50 million servers online, in the next 5 to 10 years.
Oh my God, Philip, I just got the spectator cam working. Oh my God. Oh my God. You guys see this on the overhead projector? You see me?
We do.
Und in München seht ihr mich? Hallo, Mama, ich bin im Fernsehen.
Seht ihr mich? Nee, oder?
Chaos, wir sehen dich nicht. Okay, awesome.
Dear people involved.
It finally works. But Philip, I mean, to quote a CEO friend of yours from the Wired article that came out last year, and I'm not going to use the word because it's PG show, who the F installs their own server in 2017? Basically saying it's too hard to do that for the normal person.
We may, in 2017, not run our servers necessarily on our machines at home or go install our own servers in a co-location facility, but we're certainly going to use servers from providers like Amazon or DigitalOcean, and those servers we need to be able to set up servers. So, of course, we're not necessarily going to be plugging those servers in ourselves, but most servers today are in the cloud. They're in Amazon, they're in DigitalOcean, they're in Rackspace, right? And if we're going to get an enormous number of virtual worlds up and running, one of the options we need to make simple is we've got to be able to put a server on one of those machines. And you can do that with high fidelity. You can't do it with anything else right now. And so I think we've got the right strategy there. There's not another virtual world platform that allows you to run your own machines like that. Right.
Oh,
my gang.
People are clapping?
Chaos, we've got your avatar here, your scan. This is so cool.
Oh,
can you guys see Chaos here in the audience? It's very cool. Your physics isn't loading and you're all screwed up because you're low bandwidth.
Can I see myself on screen now?
I can see you.
Drax, can you see me?
I can see you. Is that your dupe scan? So this is for the physical room?
No, it's just I'm in now, actually, weird enough, with back in my old
It
scan,
may look like
but
that to
you see me as a dupe scan?
We see you as the dupe scan. Yep.
Let's talk about that.
She's gone.
No, I'm back.
What's
I'm
happening?
persistent.
What's happening for everybody to
So
understand is... Yeah, go
I wanted
Chaos.
to tell you about in whatever avatar you're seeing me now.
Which is nothing right now.
I love the dupe avatar, but I feel more comfortable in my comical avatar, which people might see my hands back on my screen. And this is because it's like social VR is a place where you really can express your true inner self. And like, for example, in real life, I'm like a really agitated person, and everybody tells me like, calm down, calm down. And with this more comical avatar, this gives me like the possibility to portray how I really like to be.
So, Chaos, we heard you, but we don't see you on my screen, which is fine. We see everybody else. What I would like to do, because I think we're running out of time.
Ask maybe, dear inworld audience, I'm like stoked that you all have come, but it would be lovely if you maybe would have a party at Maker now. So, because maybe this would give me a possibility to load up inworld, because my machine has big connectivity issues.
What's happening?
Sorry about that.
What's happening is from the show floor, we're getting your machine lagged so much that we're disconnecting you from the network, which, as you guys know, is something that High Fidelity kind of does automatically if there's more than a couple of seconds of lag. So yeah, a few people logged out here. We'll see. I don't want to kick everybody out, but yeah, maybe it'll improve things a little bit for you, Chaos.
I would actually propose that while Chaos is relogging for the remainder of the time, I would actually like to invite a few people on stage to talk about their experience with their avatar.
Come on up, Dr. Fran.
Who wants to come?
Yeah, but could we get like less audience in Zaru, so that I have a chance to come on stage? I'll
be first to go, so I'm going
That'd
to
be lovely.
Okay, yeah. If a few of you want to log out, and we'll see if we can get Chaos in here. Yeah. The problem is the speed of her machine is causing her to.
Okay, XaosPrincess has spoken.
I'm feeling better. I'm feeling more myself. Here, it's working.
It's not.
Chaos has spoken, so people please leave.
I'm sorry. I know. I
in the meantime, Philip, let me ask you a final question. And I was going to invite the audience. Let me look at the time. Actually, there's a clock back there.
Yeah, you can see us on the High Fidelity clock there.
Oh, awesome!
It's almost half past the hour.
27.
Half past. It's like what is it? Like 11:30?
For us, it's 11:30 in San Francisco.
11:30 Pacific time.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I mean, that's about the time where we have to wrap. Let me ask you a final question. Then maybe somebody from the audience wants to ask you something. You know, I'm very much of your opinion when it comes to authenticity in the virtual worlds and that immersion. Right now, and that's also been discussed sometimes in a heated way, AR versus VR. So augmented reality presents an overlay on the physical world. While we are now immersed, I have my Oculus on, I don't see the physical audience in Munich. What is your take on that battle, or is it a battle? What do you think? Why are you so convinced that or are you, that virtual reality will win out the battle? Or is it a battle?
It's actually not a battle, but let me talk to that a little bit. Like, if I had a meeting in a conference room and we were planning this session and I wanted you to join the meeting, we'd have a couple of different options. One is that we could all put on our headsets and meet together in here like we did today. But another option would be, what if I had an AR device that had sufficient internet speed that it would allow me to look across my real conference room while sitting next to a real person and see you, Drax, as your avatar in the chair across the table from me. Now, the technology required to do that is all the same stuff we're using here. We'd have to move your avatar and we'd have to send information about you to me with very low delay. All that stuff would have to work like it does right now. So I see the difference as VR and AR in the long range just kind of being this question of whether you want to change all the pixels to something else or you just want to put, say, a person, which I think will be the most common case, right in front of you. So I think that AR and VR kind of intersect in that way. Now, what is true about AR, though, is that it's actually a much harder technical problem. You have to let somebody look through the screen as well as projecting it into their eye, and you also have to know exactly where they are, say, in a real room, to be able to make everything work magically like you see in the demos. And so AR is going to take longer to develop than VR. Oh, and then battery life. You have to have devices sitting on your head that are very lightweight and cool looking and have very small batteries. And so we have problems technically getting AR to the point where it needs to be. So I think we're going to do a lot of VR for conferences like this, where people are, some subset of people are fully, using these VR rigs that are becoming so much better and more usable every day. And, Microsoft's about to come out with some fantastic VR headsets at the end of the year here. So I think that we're going to enjoy VR for quite a while. And then as AR technology becomes good, there will be this fusion where we do appear to each other as avatars in AR. And then we do lots of other cool things with AR, like, put art in the real world, like Snapchat's just doing, and, exploring other ideas that'll be cool there. But I don't think it's really a war. I think there's going to be a lot of use cases for VR, say time travel, or learning about the moon. I mean, you're going to use VR for that in any case. So I think they'll work together, but it'll be slower to get to AR.
Fantastic. So we're wrapping. Let me ask someone in the physical. Let me ask the Munich audience. Will irgendjemand, traut sich irgendjemand? Nee. I'm going to hand over the Oculus to a person from the room, and she will inhabit my body. It will be a body transfer. I don't know how ethical that is. Nimmst du das so?
Questions raised.
So, pass auf.
Test, test. Can you hear me?
I can, Chaos.
Okay, so I thank you very much for this wonderful talk.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
sorry
frustrating.
that I wasn't visible.
We needed to do a test from the theater, and unfortunately it sounds like we didn't do one, so.
It was working before, but that's...
I imagine not reliably. Or perhaps with only you guys in the room, yeah.
So we're putting the Oculus on.
See if Drax can put another person in his body, like you said. It's pretty funny.
Lisa is going to inhabit the Draxtor.
I can hear.
So I have to ask my patent.
Lisa.
Besser. Ist es besser geworden?
Ja, aber es hält nicht. So, ich mache das, die Headphones so. Dann halten die das ein bisschen fest.
Mhm.
Ah, jetzt. Siehst du?
Ja.
Okay. Nimmst du das Controller, warte mal, ist das der Right Controller? Ja. Nimmst du den so? Okay.
Hi, Philip. Nice to meet you.
Hello, Lisa. Nice to meet you.
That's so crazy.
You can turn all the way around just like that.
Do you think it will be future in was heißt eine Firma? Business? In the business sector? Like in 5 years?
I do. I do think there's a lot of future for VR in business. One is in training. You can imagine that we could teach you almost anything in a room like this by showing you the machinery or simulating the experience. And then, like we talked about before, as the avatars get better and better and the facial expressions get better, we can use these spaces for meetings. And we can bring together, people without having to fly on airplanes. And that's a really big technological change that this is going to enable.
Can you just repeat some arguments? Because actually now at the moment, there are also Skype conferences. So
right.
What's the...
But with a Skype conference, you can't pass something back and forth or work on something together. also, the feeling of sitting in a circle with 10 people is very different in VR than it is, you know, with something like Skype. There's just all kinds of things that we can do here. I can paint in the air in front of you to make a point. I can load something like a car right next to us, and we can walk around and, you know, sit in it and look at it. And these are things that are pretty hard to do with video. And, you know, and as everybody knows, video doesn't feel quite right. You feel like you're looking through a window into another place, and you don't feel very connected to it. You also can't make eye contact. And in here, you can make eye contact. You can tell when someone is paying attention to you. You know, you can see them looking at you. So as the ability to animate the avatar and describe the avatar gets better and better, I think business people are going to start using this. Of course, the other challenge is the equipment that you're wearing right now is not ready for widespread business use, but there is a tremendous amount of work going on to make these things smaller and lighter and work better.
And how much does this cost?
Well, the one that you're wearing right now costs $400 US. And there are a number of them coming out at the end of the year here from Microsoft that range, I think, anywhere from $300 US to $500 or $600, depending on what kind of capabilities they have.
Philip, let me jump in here real quick. You can keep it on. But you were just mentioning, and I want to tell the Munich audience, we were having a talk, which is fine. But the really cool thing is that you can build stuff, and like you just mentioned, you have an interactive whiteboard. You can drive a car around. So we're doing something very basic here in terms of just talking to you. We're not even showcasing what I think is also the amazing, one of the amazing aspects that gives you the sense of presence, that we can do things together. We can build things together. We can look at things together. We have this sense of presence. And I was wondering if anybody in the audience wants to jump up on stage and wants to res something.
That's what I'm going to do right now.
Let's see what Philip does. Let's see if we have the bandwidth.
Caitlin, I don't know if you can hear me over there, but I don't think I have res rights in here.
Yeah, I can hear you just fine, although Drax is coming in a little soft for us.
You want to make me a balloon or something, Caitlin? Can you res in here?
Yeah, a balloon.
Drax and the audience in Munich, we actually, one of the things that happens with this kind of experience is that we can control who can do what in here, which is, I guess, in some ways a little better than the real world. But Caitlin can control kind of whether the people in the room can do things. Thank you, Caitlin.
You're very welcome.
Here's a balloon.
Cool. Oh.
There you go.
No, over there.
And of course, you can point, Lisa, these little laser beams in your hand. You can point them at this thing and grab it even when you're not touching it. If you pull with the little trigger there. You have to squeeze the little trigger under your finger, under your first finger, this one. If you grab it, then you'll be able to grab it. There you go. Now throw it to me.
Oh. Where is it?
How's that going to aid business? That's just escapism.
It bounced right off you. So yeah, we can make things in here. And you guys all know that.
Yeah.
And we can move the chairs, Caitlin, which needs to not be possible.
Yeah, we gotta lock those down.
Yeah, sorry.
People are taking them.
Oh, I think it might be that you can't sit in them when they're not locked.
Well,
actually.
we have a new script that'll do that.
Oh, really?
So I just need to update it, sorry. Wir haben was, what do you call it? Dwarves? Careful
There we
with this
go.
one.
Uh-oh.
Oh, God.
Oh, sorry.
That's the exploding gnome.
Yeah, infamous. His body parts are flying everywhere.
I didn't mean to give you an exploding one.
Yeah, I don't think I have res rights in here. I was going to... Finger paint. Does anybody have finger paint running?
Oh. although I need to hop on HMT.
Die Oculus kostet hier noch, glaube ich, ungefähr 600 Euro. Microsoft kommt mit einem so für 200 Euro. Also der Zug ist relativ schnell in puncto Präzision.
Okay.
Philip, what are you working on now?
Can anybody hear this microphone? Is this working?
Yep, I can hear you.
Yes. Awesome.
I hear.
Thank you.
I am running trying to finger paint for you, Drax.
What are you doing?
Let's see.
Yeah, come up here, Kaylin.
Okay.
If you can.
Sure.
Why don't you stand in front of Drax there and do a little finger painting?
Yeah. Let me see if I can do some finger painting up here. Oh, there's the balloon. Let's see. So.
You're still paused, Kaylin.
Am I? Let me just switch my avatar to my other one.
Oh, I just mean, yeah. We can't see your hands.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Just do. Is this any better?
Yeah, yes.
There we go. Finger paint.
So watch that, you guys.
So I can draw using just my hands here in VR.
Pretty cool.
So I can make a smiley. Or a tree. Very bad tree. But a tree.
That's great.
Yeah, or rabbit ears. Do. And it's really cool to do it in 3D.
And Drax and Lisa there, that's a...
We got to wrap it up. Lisa is enjoying balloons and finger painting. Thank you so much. One last word on inclusion. When I visited you in San Francisco, we had Cody, who is paralyzed, has cerebral palsy. What is the industry doing to include people with disabilities? We have these controllers, we can do stuff. Cody cannot use his hands. What are your thoughts on that aspect of people with different abilities, with disabilities, maybe older people who are not that agile and mobile as we are?
Well, part of the magic of VR is, just as you said, that it can give people that have different types of disabilities the ability to transcend them in the virtual world. We've been very thoughtful about this. I mean, certainly we have the ability to use our hands with these hand controllers, but we also have the ability to operate in here with the mouse and the keyboard. And Caitlin was even demonstrating there. She was finger painting just using the keyboard, basically, in front of herself. And so we believe that the environment should be open and extensible so that people that have disabilities can do as much as possible, like they can do in Second Life today. In addition to that, though, we have the additional optional capability now of using our hands normally. But as you say, it's a huge opportunity of virtual worlds to be as inclusive, more inclusive than the real world in many ways for people with disabilities. And I know that's going to continue in high fidelity in Sansa.
Maybe the hardware makers need to step up and create additional devices that are geared towards. I can think of a wheelchair that would be the controller, let's say, and that kind of stuff. Okay, we have to wrap it up. Chaos is coming back. Philip, thank you so much for your time. Kate,
thanks, you guys.
The virtual room. Turn around so we see the virtual room. Everybody clap. Who's still there?
Thank you, everybody, if you can hear me. Unfortunately, I had a 5 connection, so that was my problem. But thank you very much, Philip. Thank you very much, Draxtor, for having like this awesome talk, and I'm so stoked about this event.
good.
Tschüss. Thanks for everything.
That was cool.
Yeah, that was nice.
I missed half of it.
Yeah, and unfortunately the audio was kind of hard to hear.
I had to go put chickens to bed and horses to bed, and I missed it.
Do you really have chickens?
Yes, and
Or is that what
ducks
you call
and geese.
children?
No.
Really?
And
horses.
Chickens, ducks,
Chickens and horses.
geese, and horses.
Oh,
We used to have turkeys, but they decided to die. So.
Did you eat them?
That's cool. I like it when there's people who are like, when you're doing VR, but at the same time you're living kind of like, you know, doing the old things as well, like raising chickens and stuff. I want to get some chickens.
Well, have interesting lives outside of VR, interesting, rich lives, and then VR just adds to it.
Yeah.
Hey, I just put them to bed. I don't care about them.
Do they have little blankets?
No.
And you do you sync?
No, I go up there, look at the ducks and the geese, and I'm like, go on, get into bed, and then they start waddling into their stage,